Group 3.
Okay, I hit the red button, so is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Diamond, sweetheart, come on. I know, I caught you. Come sit down, please. So how many of you have read Curious George books before?
Me.
Yes. No. Yes.
So,
is everybody listening? Diamond, where are you supposed to be sitting, sweetheart?
up there. Up right there. She been sitting right there.
Okay. Diamond, can you sit in your assigned seat, please? Thank you. Crisscross applesauce. All right. So how many of you have read Curious George before? Yes, no. No?
Maybe so.
I see you. Awesome. So some of you know he kind of gets into trouble every once in a while, right? And then he tries to find his way out. Well, today we're going to be learning about Curious George visits the library. And you guys have library today, so it's almost perfect. All right. So how many of you have been to the library outside of school? Yes, no, yes. They have a lot of books, right?
Yeah.
All different types, not just...
computers.
And computers. That's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and start reading. This is George. He was a good little monkey and always very curious. Today, George and his friend, the man with the yellow hat, were at the library. Yes, sir?
I know why they said he was named Curious.
Wow.
Because they call him Curious George.
There you go. Awesome. Good choice. George had never been to the library before. He had never seen so many books before either. Everywhere he looked, people were reading. Some people read quietly to themselves. But in the children's room, the librarian was reading out loud, kind of like what I'm doing right now, right? Does the librarian here do the same thing?
Yes.
No? Sometimes? Sometimes?
Yes.
Okay. It was story hour. George loved stories. He sat down with a group of children to listen. The librarian was reading a book about a bunny. George liked bunnies. Does anybody else like bunnies? Behind the librarian was a book about a dinosaur. George liked dinosaurs even more. He hoped she would read it next. But next, the librarian read about a train. George tried to sit quietly and wait for the dinosaur book to be read, but sometimes it is hard for a little monkey to be patient. When the librarian started the story about jungle animals, George could not wait any longer. He had to see the dinosaur book. He tiptoed closer. "Look, a monkey!" shouted a girl. The librarian put her fingers to her lips. "We must be quiet so everyone can hear," she said nicely. "But there's a monkey," said a boy. The librarian nodded and smiled. "Mm-hmm." She agreed. Yes, Anita? It's okay, thank you. When she finished reading the jungle story, the librarian reached for the dinosaur book. Where did it go? And where was George? Uh-oh. Who thinks he's going to get into some trouble? Yes? No? Maybe?
So,
George was all ready to take the dinosaur book home and read it with his friend when another book caught his eye. This book was about trucks. George wanted to take it home too. And here was a book about elephants. George loved elephants. He added it to his pile. George found so many good books. He soon had more than he could carry. He leaned against a shelf to rest. Squeak went the shelf. Shh, said a man. Squeak went the shelf again, and it moved. Why, it wasn't really a shelf after all. George had found a special cart for carrying books. Uh-oh, I think he's going to get into some trouble. What luck! Now George could carry all the books he wanted. He rolled the cart between the shelves and stacked up books about boats and kites and baking cakes. He climbed higher to reach books about cranes and planes. At last, George had all the books he could handle. He couldn't wait to head home and start reading. And right in front of him was a ramp leading to the door. George was curious. Could he roll the cart all the way home?
Ooh.
How many of you thought about doing that? See one of those carts that you just ride it home? Yes, no.
I might would.
Yeah, I see the thumbs up. You thought about it, huh? No? Maybe?
I did.
Yeah. Down the ramp George went. The cart rolled faster and faster. Stop! A librarian volunteer shouted. Come back here with my cart! But George was too excited to listen. The cart was picking up speed and George was having fun. Yep. Until crash! George and the cart ran smack into a shelf of encyclopedias. Do you guys know what encyclopedias are?
Books. A person can read books.
No.
What's
an encyclopedia? I know.
It's books, but it's telling you about this.
Are you guys listening to Sanavion?
Yeah.
Yes. It's a book about what?
Encyclopedia.
Yeah. Ryan, I'll let you answer. Are you guys listening to Ryan? Right, it's kind of like a dictionary, but it has people and places and other information that you wouldn't find in a dictionary. Alright, so until crash, George and the cart ran smack into a shelf of encyclopedias. Books flew in the air, and so did George. He landed in a big pile right between O and P. Oh no, moaned the volunteer when he saw the mess George had made. How am I going to put away all these books? I'd like to borrow this one, said a boy from Story Hour. And I'll take this one, said a girl. With help from George and the children, the books were sorted in no time. Soon there was just a small pile of George's favorites left. Would you like to take those books home with you? The volunteer asked George. Then he took George to a special desk and helped him get his very own library card. How many people have a library card? Yeah? Awesome. George was holding his brand new card when his friend arrived with a stack of books of his own. There you are, George, he said. I see you are all ready to check out. George and his friend gave their books to the librarian. She smiled when she saw George's pile. I was wondering where this dinosaur book went, she said. That's one of my favorites, too. The librarian stamped the books and handed them back to George. With his books under one arm, George waved goodbye to the volunteer, the librarian, and the children from Story Hour. Come see us again, George, the librarian said, waving back. Enjoy your books. And he did. The end.
Did he fall and get a concussion or something? You crashed into it?
I don't know. Didn't sound like it. All right. So, who wants to tell me the first thing that George did?
He went in the library. He went in the library and he saw all these favorite books that he got. He was he saw the dinosaur book. He saw the elephant book. He saw all the books that he liked. He did. And then he got the books and then it was in the cart.
And then they were in the cart. All right. Then what happened after it was in the cart? Ryan, go ahead.
After they were in the cart, he crashed the bus.
And then all the books kind of flew everywhere. All right. Then what happened? Elijah, go ahead.
Then the volunteer said, how am I going to clean up all this mess? And then all the kids helped him clean up the mess in no time because they all wanted some of George's books. And then the volunteer asked George, do you want to take all the books home? And then the volunteer bent down and gave him a library card.
All right, good. And then what happened after he got his library card?
I gotta ask a question.
Okay.
How do people understand Curious George?
What do you
He
mean?
a monkey.
I don't know. It's just a book. So is it fiction or nonfiction?
Non-fiction.
Nonfiction?
No fiction.
It's fiction. Why? Why is it fiction? Because he's not real. So that's why some people realize he's a monkey and some don't. All right. So what happened after he got his library card, Diamond?
He man said that to enjoy his books and he enjoyed them.
Awesome. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and return to your desk. I'm gonna hand out some sheets for you guys to do. I guess Miss Murphy's group 1 can go ahead and go back to the back table. You can stop. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know how to cut it off.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I really appreciate it.